that's where we're at with that.
Which one is lift number 2?
David, can you help me on that?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Which station is
Where
it?
is it located?
Where is this one?
Oh, let's see here, that's up on Michigan Avenue.
Oh, okay.
And that is,
Okay.
it's a tight lift.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why we only had 2 bids for this is it's a very tight, small lift station, and it was very difficult to get pumps that will fit into this. The company that did provide us the successful one that we're looking at for $114,000 has measured everything to make sure that these particular pumps will fit in it without having to do substantial cutting, retrofitting, to try to get those in there. One company we reached out to respectfully declined because of the nature of the business, and I'm thinking that there's a lot of other lucrative jobs opposed to this one to do. And the other one, we just didn't hear anything back from. So,
Thank you.
based on the timeline, I would expect they're probably going to start on this till late winter, early spring, because to try to get the pumps in and some of the ancillary equipment. So, but we need to get it on the books because they mentioned if we extend the bid or the quote as of January 1, the costs go up because we've got costs increasing basically every few months now on this type of equipment.
Do we know how old the current pumps are?
35 plus years. And the pumps that we're speccing out for these ones are actually submersible, so in the event that if this lift station ever were to become submerged or any type of leak, these can run indefinitely underwater.
Not what we're planning, but it would.
Not what you're planning, no.
But it's a nice
Yeah,
feature.
correct, yeah.
And the expected lifespan would be similar?
So 20, these are, you can't maintain these aren't like the old ones where you tear them apart and rebuild them, so there's really no maintenance. It's maintenance free for projected 10 to 20 years. So if they fail, they fail, we have to replace them, but the timeline we look at on these, projected, 20 years.
Other questions?
Do they have some kind of warranty for time frame or no?
Yes, they do, it's prorated based on its life expectancy. So, yeah, that's one of the reasons they're not, you can't take them apart either as avoids the warranty. They're built in a way that you can't tear them apart and play with them.
Anybody else? No? All right, all those in favor of a yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed is no. Motion is carried, and we have a couple pumps, it looks like. Moving down to recommendations on bids. First up, we are to consider a resolution to receive bids for a scissor lift for the Alma Transit and approve a request for purchase to the recommended bidder, who is Bell Forklift Incorporated, in the amount of $23,276. We received 3 bids one from Bell, one from Granger, one from Neobits, it looks like, ranging from $23,276 up to $43,182.58. Your pleasure.
Move approval.
Support.
Motion support. Background for us?
Yep. What's nice is this is the local bidder as from a state from Wayne's in the state of Michigan. Also, the funding for this particular scissor lift is being funded by the grants from the federal transportation. So it isn't something that's coming out of our general fund or from our transportation village.
Questions? This is a human scissor lift or a
Yes.
vehicle lift?
Human scissor lift, yep. Currently, we have basically one, it's in the city's ownership, and it has to be moved around to many different places. So since this could be paid for by some grant dollars, it makes sense to have one on site there that they
What is it used for, I guess?
replacement of lighting. Brett, can you help me out with any?
Oh, absolutely.
Lighting for sure, so.
Yes, we have 6 very large garage doors that break down all the time. They have metal pins, and when those shear off, you have to either ladder up or use and we have one maintenance person, Ron Sutton, and he's in his 50s, and these ladders are huge and heavy, and just for safety, it just makes sense to be able to have something on site for us to be able to use, because we're using the cities a lot.
Oh, do the garage doors, they break that often?
Well, actually, I don't know if you consider breaking, the metal pins, that they don't last. Those doors are huge and heavy, and when they stop, it's just a little cotter pin, but it's all the way at the top, and the only way to get to it is with a scissor lift or the ladder, so.
Or just-
It's a human scissor lift, can you explain? I don't know.
Sure, it's basically, it's a little buggy, and you step up into it, and you can pick yourself up to the ceiling, essentially.
They were using the other one
Yeah, it's up, it
downtown.
looks like
Yeah.
lattice.
Putting
Right,
Christmas
wait,
stuff up.
human, I didn't know if it meant that it was human
Oh,
operated.
no.
No,
It's for a human being.
moves
For a human being.
Gotcha,
I
okay.
was asking if it was human or for the vehicles,
Gotcha,
it's a
yes,
vehicle.
yes, I understand, and it's safer than a ladder accident.
Yes, very much so.
Okay, understood, thank you.
Would the other departments be able to borrow it? Like you're borrowing the cities?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Suppose when you build them for it, it'd probably be okay, but that's. something else.
Transportation dollars,
That could be-
Federal dollars, things
Very
get,
expensive.
they're pretty sticky
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, all those in favor say yes?
yes.
Any opposed, no? Motion is carried. Next up, we are to consider a resolution to receive bids for the replacement of lobby doors at Elma Transit and approve the request for purchase to the recommended bidder, which is Denali, in the amount of $13,517. 3 bids were received from Asa Abalai, I pronounced that wrong, I'm sure. Denali and Gilmos, ranging from $13,162 to $17,520, it looks like, so, your pleasure.
Move to approve.
Or,
Okay, motion support. Those questions?
We've talked about a couple times the door damage that happened in our main entry. There's also a vestibule there, so this is an entry door there, and then the internal door replacement. We had some, the wind catch that door, but, they've been out there for a while, there's a wide open area. This will also provide for I believe, a touch automatic door opening for the ADA accessibility. One of the other reasons that we're recommending the $13,517 is just up the road in Mount Pleasant, so any service, maintenance, that sort of thing, being local as opposed to Livonia, having to come up from there. Again, this is funding that's out of our federal grant monies, or am I, no, I'm missing that,
no,
okay.
this will be out of the transit.
Transit, okay. Is there anything else, Brett, missing on the doors themselves?
No, I think you covered.
Did we seek a bid from Advanced Class, their local dealer? Bid declined?
Well, they actually don't do any of the work. They would be contacting these same companies and then just putting their 15 to 20% on top, so.
Okay.
They actually told us to go to these companies, that's where we.
So they declined, basically, yeah. Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Questions? All those in favor say yes?
Yes.
Any opposed would be no. Motion is carried. Resolutions. Now, to consider a resolution to approve budget amendments to transfer funds related to an unexpected IT and building/ground costs.
Move to approve.
or,
We have motion support.
Yeah, talked a little bit about this in your newsletter, just to give you some more background and be aware. What we're looking at doing is moving $13,000 to the IT budget and $12,000 to the buildings and grounds maintenance budget, and decreasing the Riverside Cemetery budget by 25 for those two amounts. That $25,000 was to be used for this year's survey to plot out some extra grave sites in the new section of the cemetery. The reason we're asking for this amendment, as we were doing the computer server migration, we had a couple of glitches. One, we lost our power, I'm gonna get the proper terminology for this. Power conditioner. Power conditioner is basically when every time the generator kicks on, it throws electricity into the building. That electricity might not be clean electricity that's, it's coming from the grid all the time and the constant thing. So that conditions it, so when it goes into the system with other computers throughout the network, it doesn't fry them. It keeps it nicely needed. So that went away, so we'd like to get that replaced as soon as possible. Also, the UPS, the uninterruptible power supply also failed. And again, that keeps everything steady with the power going to the server and to all the other computers and everything else in the city hall. It's surprising that these pieces of equipment cost that much. We're getting quotes right now, so we'll be back with you with what that would cost ultimately. But that needs to be replaced sooner than later, so that's what we're recommending. And then the $12,000 for the buildings and grounds, that has to do with anticipated increases for replacement of the driveway approaches for the fire and police parking out here into the fire hall and into the employee parking area, and to replace the driveway in front of the fire hall and the parking area for the police department. Everything that keeps coming back to us, we know that the number that we had in there for this budget year is not enough. So we looked at moving that 12,000 in there just to be ready for those cost overruns, so we can get this project done in this fiscal year. Pushing off the Riverside Cemetery survey doesn't hurt us. We do have enough plots to carry us through probably for the next couple fiscal years, so we can reappropriate this money in our next fiscal year for 2024. This allows us to continue with these two projects that, one, the unanticipated, and then two pieces of equipment failing, and not have to dip into the fund balance. So we're trying to, as staff, recommending that we go this route as opposed to dipping into the city's fund balance to pay for these two items.
Questions or comments?
Can that first thing basically be described as a big surge protector?
I'm sure Drew would
It's-
know way more technicality.
Yeah, Thor,
Why am I
why am I asking it out
Right,
there?
it would-
But without it, we do risk.
No, it sounds
we
very
do risk
necessary. I
losing
don't
a
know
lot
the
of,
details of
important
it.
stuff.
I didn't know there was dirty electricity.
And that's how it was described to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Anybody else? Very none. All those in favor say yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed would be no. Motion is carried. Next up, we will consider a resolution supporting the application for Michigan Spark Grant funding for the rehabilitation of the Elma River Boardwalk adjacent to Riverside Park, and the rehabilitation of the pavilion and associated assets within Riverside Park. Your pleasure.
Support.
Motion support.
We talked about this a little bit last month about applying for these when we have another one up next, applying for them. There's 3 rounds of funding with the Spark grants, 50 million in this round, another 25 million this spring, and another 25 million next fall. Michigan Department of Natural Resources will be taking these applications in and scoring them. So if we don't get anything, at least we'll get some feedback on how we do with them. In your resolution that's in the packet, I did leave this particular project blank because at that time I didn't have a number from the engineer. And then as soon as we set it out later on in the afternoon, he told us to go ahead and put in there $1 million. By the time he added in engineering costs, possible cost increases and those sort of things, we were right on the $900,000, $950,000 border anyway. So I said, we might as well just go ahead and ask for the maximum amount. So that's what we would request to put into the resolution.
Okay, so we need to amend the resolution then to make her?
Just didn't, the resolution is correct other than adding a number into the resolution, so. 'Cause right now it says all what you need to say that we will apply for this funding, and then we'll have blank the number to put into the resolution.
Okay. So is that clear?
Mhm.
Questions? Anybody else?
The park committee met and voted on this one and the next one, and both of those were received very enthusiastically. The boardwalk adjacent to Riverside Park, the pavilion, as you drive by there, in the middle of the park up against the river are big green steel posts that are just sticking up there doing nothing, that have been there forever. And originally there was a canopy of some kind on that. Nobody really remembers what it looked like, but something that provided shade. And this would be to redo that in a more permanent structure that would make put a roof over an area so that you could do things and have picnics and stuff out there, and to finish up the Riverwalk around through that, so. It's, especially if somebody else is gonna pay for it, it's a great idea, so.
Okay. All those in favor would be yes?
Yes.
Any opposed, no? Motion is carried. Next would be consideration of a resolution in support of an application for Michigan Spark Grant funding to extend the Riverwalk from Euclid Ball Fields adjacent to and along the Pine River into St. Louis city limits. Your pleasure.
Move to adopt.
Support?
Motion support.
Again,
Background?
yep, again, this is something that we've talked about in our master plans in the past to extend the Riverwalk to the city of St. Louis and connecting in with them. We're at this one, we're applying for the full amount again, $1 million. This would only get us one segment of most likely 3 segments, or possibly 4, to get us all the way to the city limits of St. Louis and us. So, but this will get us started and start moving us towards St. Louis.
Again, neat idea, this is on the north side of the river.
I want to make sure I clarify this because this grant gives us up to $1 million. Back when we talked last week to the Parks Committee, it was not widely known that was $1 million cap on it. So what we were projecting was going from the termination point right now at Euclid Ball Field, continuing east along Washington Avenue, and up through the old airport site, if anybody's familiar with that, and then connected to St. Louis underneath of the 127 overpass adjacent to the river. But that was going to be significantly over the grant amount, so we made an adjustment. So what we're looking at with this portion is continuing on where it ends at Euclid Ball Field, going in through behind Euclid Ball Field, and then going between the Public Works Building and the wastewater treatment plant, and then going along Washington Avenue, and then terminating it at Bridge Street. So this would get us up to Bridge, and if another portion comes along with funding, then we can continue on in segments going towards St. Louis for that portion. So that's a clarification from learning what this grant covers and how much money it is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, be no. Motion is carried. Moving to ordinances. Consider a resolution to adopt ordinance number 837 to amend the zoning map of the city of Alma as it appears in section 60-52 of the ordinances of the city of Alma to conditionally rezone a parcel of property known as 224 East Center Street from zone B1, which is central business district, to zone R1, single family residential. Your pleasure.
Move to adopt.
We have seen this before.
Yes.
Do we have support? Okay, we have motion support.
Yep, this is the final step, so we can allow those folks to finish up the project there and then get their certificate of occupancy as a single family home.
Other questions?
Yeah, will you clarify just one thing for me on the conditional zoning? Since it's gonna be marketed and sold as single-family residential, if that property changes hands, does that require the zoning to go back to the original? Or is it a change in use?
As long as someone purchases it and uses it for the R1 single family.
Okay, it's still-
it's-
okay.
They have to abide by the same conditions.
Okay, okay,
But as long as they do that.
as long as they don't change the use of it.
Right, and the reason here, because I don't think it wasn't contiguous to an R1
Right,
district, so the
right.
conditional rezone is necessary. This was a residence, and they changed it out because of gonna be a marijuana facility, I think. And
Yes.
when that didn't work out, now we've got the option, now these people are gonna change it back, which I think is probably the best use under the
Yes.
circumstances.
Very much so. Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed would be no. Okay, looks like that has passed, thank you. Next up would be consideration of a resolution to introduce ordinance number 834, which is an ordinance to provide for the licensing and regulation of recreational marijuana establishments, and ordinance number 836, an ordinance to regulate the location of medical recreational marijuana facilities within the city of Alma. Your pleasure.
Move to introduce.
Support. Motion support, comments?
Again, this is the ordinances that we've been working on for the last few months. The introduction for tonight, and those will be on your agenda for the next meeting for approval. So, yeah, that's where we're at right now.
And we made a couple of changes based on the hearing, in the last commission meeting anyway. a couple of typographical errors, and then there were questions about the state, there was some concern about the fact that you had to get a state license within a certain period of time. We didn't think that was enough time, so we changed that up to hopefully make that more doable. And then there were some questions too about the odor and other things like that. We changed that up a little bit too to make it comply with other, state law and other local ordinances. And the same thing with respect to the use of tobacco, which would allow for an employee to use tobacco if that was allowed by ordinance and state statute. Those are the main changes.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's the same.
Comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no?
No.
I believe Friday said,
As a-
5-1, just a one? Okay.
I know.
Yep, 5-1. All right, but the motion has passed. Thank you. Next up, agreements. Consideration of a resolution to approve a letter of agreement with the Wayne Metropolitan Community Action Agency for participation in a low-income household water assistance program to provide and to authorize the mayor to sign the agreement on behalf of the city. Their pleasure.
Move approval.
Support.
Motion support.
Yep, yeah, we discussed this last meeting. What's nice about this is the homeowner will work directly with the Wayne Metropolitan Community Action Agency. The agency will work with us to get information for their water bills and then send us the money directly, and then we just have to report them that was paid and those sort of things. So it's a good, hopefully the folks that can take advantage of it can take advantage of it. It is definitely a very specific program, and that's why we do have this opportunity, because they could use all the money they had done in the Wayne and Oakland County area. So it's nice that they're reaching out to us.
Do you have the criteria available yet?
Yeah,
Qualified or?
we do. It's basically a form through this agency to get them qualified. They won't be qualifying through us. It'll
Right,
be our
I just, we need to get the
Yes,
information
we
out
can
to our
do that. Yep,
citizens.
yep. We will do that.
Qualified.
We will do that on Facebook tomorrow.
Okay. And on our website, I
And
presume
yes,
as well.
we can get that on the water section of the website.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Sounds like a good,
Thank you for participating and getting involved with
yep,
it.
I agree.
Great idea.
Anything to help?
Yep.
All those in favor of a yes?
Yes.
Any opposed, please say no. Motion is carried. Moving down to reports of officers, boards, and committees. Commissioners may receive the following reports by one resolution, or any commissioner may remove any item within the section for individual discussion and vote. Tonight, we have the Fire Board November 21st, 2022 draft minutes, the DDA November 30, 2022 draft minutes, the Parks Committee December 6, 2022 draft minutes, Alma Police Department November 2022 report, Alma Transit November 2022 report, the Finance November 2022 report, Code Enforcement November 2022 report, Gratiot Area Water Authority verbal report, and the City Manager's report. Your pleasure.
Do you pull my verbal report so I can give it?
As you will request, yes, we certainly shall.
I move to approve or receive 1 through 7.
1 through 7, okay.
Support.
Anybody else? Okay, we got a motion and support. All those in favor say yes.
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 Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. I'll entertain a motion for the next one.
I move to receive 8 and 9.
8 and 9. Any support?
Yes.
Motion support. Now, comments or discussion, who wants to go first?
Okay, I had great notes, and left them at my office, but I do want to say that the Water Authority received a clean audit, and Ally had nothing but high praise and thanks for all of the hard work that Bobby does, that she is not only early and efficient and helpful, it is correct and accurate, and so, there were no findings. I'm not a finance person, but everything was the best it could possibly be, and so our immense thanks to Bobby in St. Louis for helping keep our Water Authority books and audit as stellar as she's keeping it. Other things I remember are that, everything's kind of come to a halt because we don't have the supplies, and it's getting cold. We've battened down the hatches on some things. There's a roof on something, but nothing else.
Part of a roof.
Part of a roof.
well, 12 is what we're
Well,
talking about,
12.
if anybody has any questions.
And is that
This is
the
new one.
nutshell of the, so, I mean, things that would be temperature sensitive are being stored somewhere else, so they're not going to be destroyed before we get the building completed.
And you've authorized an alarm test for the.
Yes, which is fabulous. There was some glitch that our alarms weren't going off properly, so we're bringing in somebody to check and then make sure that our alarms are alerting the appropriate people before trouble has gone amok, so, thank you, Dave.
Okay. Are there questions regarding the water authority? I'm hearing none. Thank you very much for your report. We'll move on to the city manager's report.
We already talked about the computer server migration, conjunctive relief. We do have an amendment that we'd like the commission to consider at our next meeting, add in the newsletter, just for your information. We're trying to work through policies and procedures to streamline some of these. Our code enforcer, Mike Carr, suggested, because he was at one of his trainings, that some other municipalities are using what's called adjunctive relief as part of their toolkit to gain compliance for different code issues.
What we're doing, for the blight stuff ordinarily, if you got a blight problem, you guys gotta get rid of a few inoperable vehicles or whatever it is on the property. There is a state law, because ordinarily if you want an injunction, you have to go to circuit court. The circuit court lawsuit's much more involved ordinarily than district court lawsuit's more expensive, and it sometimes is prohibitive in these cases where you're only talking about one vehicle or whatever. There's a statute that allows the district court to have the power to issue injunctions in these cases. And Mike was at a seminar and they pointed that out and we looked it up and yeah, absolutely. And so you need to amend the municipal civil infraction ordinance to dictate what you need in the citation. When you issue a civil infraction citation, now we're gonna ask for injunctive relief. That'll be in the citation, so it alerts the occupant or the owner that's gonna happen. And it'll help, and in fact, I mean, you could argue it might help the owner or occupant as well, because we're not so concerned about the penalty, we're not, the fines and all of that stuff. What we want is compliance. And so now if we can get this injunction to say, okay, within so many days, you've gotta do this, that puts some teeth in it, and that's really what we want. So I've drafted an amendment to the municipal civil infraction ordinance that has that language in it. Hopefully then that gets approved, and that'll be another tool that code enforcement can use to get compliance. I think it's a great idea.
It'll get us there a lot quicker than trying to go through a circuit. So, but the bigger issues, circuit's still where we have to go, but, yeah. Cars, like that, just has lots of stuff, people just have stuff. It'll help us out there, so.
Yep.
Good. Any additional comments or questions?
I just wanted to mention real quick, also, the DDA met with OHM engineers to go over the progress with the downtown parking lots and alleys. As I mentioned in the newsletter, the cost estimate, obviously everything shouldn't surprise me that everything just keeps going up. I was thinking we'd be about the 2 million, 2.5, somewhere in there. They're estimating the cost at 2.9 million. For what we have remaining down there for the parking lots and alleys to be reconstructed. The board is gonna meet again this month to talk about prioritization, because we just obviously won't have that type of money to do it all in 1 year. Maybe we can get a couple of them done this next year, but that's just not possible to get them all done at one time. So we'll talk about that a little bit more next meeting also. Tony will be, his last meeting is next week, or the 27th, in 2 weeks from now. As we all know, we had Adam Fleury here, he's with Smith Volkel, who is absorbed or taken.
We've affiliated
with
them. Yeah, we're gonna keep the Elma office open, we're gonna keep Debbie working, Pam's gonna continue there. They got all the files, not just City of Elma files, but all of our files. It'll be just the way it was, phone number's the same. They have a lot of experience in municipal law. That's one of the reasons we contacted them. They do almost exactly the same type of work we do and a little bit more, because they've got 8 or 9 lawyers now. So the hope is that you will utilize them as the city attorney going forward. You know, at least for a test run anyway, because like I said, they've got all the stuff still there. It's local. They'll have people here. And if they don't have people here, they can't charge you to get here because they've got an office. So I hope that it works out for you. We've used that office in the past too, when I've had a conflict, or Chuck had a conflict before me. Dave Meyer over there, who's still there, he's older than me, just works harder than I do, I guess, but he's still there, he's a great resource, and Adam is his understudy and has had a lot of experience too. So that's the hope, that you guys will at least, going forward, give them a shot, because, you know, I think it makes it easier for everybody, certainly for me.
Well, it makes it.
Selfishly, but I think it really does help the city too.
I think so too, having someone local right here. I've had the opportunity to discuss, not just discuss things with Adam, but also sit down and work with a couple things that we've been looking at. So, as staff, we would recommend that we appoint them as our city attorney. Currently, our charter requires that we have an attorney at each one of our regular meetings, so that's helpful also too, that they are local, so it's not, you know, time and you should never choose your attorney at cost, but that does come into a factor. It's a factor, but I think they're you know, looking at their resume and having some discussions that they would serve us well, and like this doesn't preclude us as things come up that they necessarily couldn't handle, that we could, you know, obviously work with other attorneys on different issues too. So, but just wanted to put that out there.
Is that it then?
Yeah, that is it. I'm sorry.
All right,
Yep,
thank
that's
you.
it.
Questions? Okay, just one, as far as the attorney is concerned, our ordinance does, or our charter does require an attorney at every meeting. Personally, I think I've expressed it before, I'm not so sure that's 100% necessary to incur that cost every meeting, so I'd like to maybe have that discussion at some point. And also, should we be opening this up and invite other attorneys if there's any other local attorneys that are interested in bidding on the work? I don't know that there are, I don't think over the years we've really run into anyone, but there are other attorneys in our community, so.
Yeah,
I presume that they know what's going on and that
Yeah,
they're
I
interested,
would
they
be
probably would
shocked.
approach us, but.
you might, yeah, they're really hard.
Beating our door down.
I mean,
What's that?
especially
Yeah,
the two
I just
years.
laughed because he said I'd be shot. They're beating our door down. We want to be the city attorney.
It's highly sought after role,
Right.
you command the respect, you know.
Right, especially with what I've done.
I mean, it might not hurt just to throw it out.
Yeah, just to be
Just
fair,
to-
I
yeah, just
don't
in
think
case,
there's,
I guess, you know.
I mean, I'm not aware of anybody, and
Yeah.
I suspect that for a small enough town that if people were interested, they would have approached somebody.
We do have an attorney at every meeting for free advice.
That's true, you got a couple
I
tonight.
know, yeah.
I guess that's in the charter because an attorney wrote it. And then
You
they
know,
keep going.
that might
It wasn't me, but I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Never a long time.
Yeah.
I will say this though about the charter, you know, there are a few other things that we've talked about over the course of the last few years in the charter that we might want to revisit. If you were of a mind to do that, it's probably a good idea to look at the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then kill a few birds with one stone, as far as that goes.
Yeah, we keep pushing those things off because they
It's
just
a-
accumulate over
it's a-
time and.
It's a process
Yeah,
to amend
it
the
is.
charter, so.
Well, and it's tricky, I think, because while it may be cost prohibitive to have had Tony or his predecessors here every meeting, you don't know necessarily that you're gonna need some advice until it happens. I'm comforted, I mean, not only has Tony done an excellent job, I have been comforted that somebody that knows a heck of a lot more than I do about the legality of all of this. So, I mean, it's definitely, I'm not against having a discussion, but I do think that for me personally, I don't know that I would have anticipated the times that I have looked to Tony to shed some light on things, so I think it perhaps is money that's well invested. Just my opinion.
Good. And, you know, from my opinion, you know, I think there may be times when there are times when we need legal opinion, but quite often it needs to be researched anyway.
Sure.
It may delay certain things, but I don't get the feeling it would delay things in great deal, because typically things do need to be researched, you know.
I agree with what you're saying, I feel, I just like attorney being present.
Or it gives him the heads up to start research. I mean, I think Tony, I've noticed, makes a lot of notes when we're mouthing off about stuff and probably looks into it. I don't know how that would work, because then Eric would be responsible for passing everything that we mouthed off about.
Things that you would request us to.
Okay.
Sure.
completely
And then other
review.
cities, I represent the city of St. Louis,
Sure.
and that's what they do. If something comes up, I just get a call.
You don't have to review the tapes afterwards.
I think technically everything goes through Eric anyway, the way
Yes.
the system works, is
Right.
it is all on his shoulders. Congratulations.
Yep, that's what we're doing.
Welcome again, Eric.
Okay, anybody else, last comments? All those in favor say yes?
Yes.
Any opposed would be no, and we have received everything now. Next up would be appropriations, I guess. Anybody in favor of paying the bills?
Yes, move to pay the appropriations.
Support.
Hey, any comments or questions on the bills? I'm hearing none, so all those in favor would be yes?
Yes.
Any opposed, no? Motion is carried. Commissioner comments? Roger, why don't you start first tonight?
Okay,
Change it up.
I really don't have very much other than to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas. And, I think we can be very proud of some of the things that we have done this year. But I would like to just turn to everybody in this room possibly for some advice. One of the most common complaints and stuff that I get as a city commissioner has nothing to do with the city, and it's the fact that gas is 40 to 60 cents more in Gratiot County than it is anywhere else. I am wondering out loud about writing to the Attorney General, just to see if there is some evidence of price fixing or something like that in there. I mean, everybody is talking about it. I went into Montcalm County on Friday night and, not just to do that, but I bought gas for $3.08. My son-in-law bought it in Lansing for $2.99. Every place except Gratiot County seems to be hovering around the $3 mark, and we're still playing with $3.29 to $3.49. Is it worth a shot to write the Attorney General? I'm asking
That's
for
something
advice.
that you would like to.
No, I feel strongly about it, you were running your elected official, Raj.
No, I would do it, not as an official representative of the city of Elma, but just, is it worth a shot, do you
It's
think?
at least documented then,
Mm.
the issue.
Mhm. I was very concerned about 3 or 4, maybe a little longer, weeks ago, when we were in the 369 level, and it was, everybody was at 369, everybody. And on Friday, 3 stations in town went down to like 364, and one went down to 359 on a Friday, and I thought, it's gonna come back down. And on Monday, those 3 stations were back up to 369. Kind of makes you wonder if somebody didn't make a phone call, to.
Well, in the old days, it used to be, we'd drive to Ann Arbor for appointments in East Lansing regularly. We'd fuel up here
Mhm.
because it would cost more in the bigger cities. And
Yeah.
it is astonishing to me how much lower it is in places that historically have always been a lot higher than Alma.
There's some ebb and flow to it though. Because there was a time not too long ago where Gratiot County gas was cheaper.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I don't know why, but Belding had the cheapest gas in the state of Michigan. I used to drive to Grand Rapids through Belding because you could save 50 cents a gallon. It's
Yeah.
bizarre. Yeah, what the heck? Give it a
Well,
shot.
it certainly has an impact on our community.
Mhm. Yeah, it does,
The folks
it
that I
does.
work with,
Yeah.
transportation and gas, and that is a huge barrier to
Mhm.
much of what they're doing, getting to court, going to Ithaca, wherever,
Sure.
and so it definitely has an impact. We get
Diesel went
called-
down
we get
today
called daily
for
for
the
gas
first
charges,
time
you know, so.
in memory, went down 20 cents, which makes it $2 a gallon more than gasoline is right now. So for trucks and school buses and, it's crazy, the
Yeah.
prices. All right, do people think it's worth it?
I drove to Frankenmuth on Saturday, and getting around Saginaw was $2.77.
Wow.
Yeah, and the contrast was pretty striking.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, that's almost $1 a gallon cheaper.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Merry Christmas.
Roseanne?
Went to the Come Home to Alma festivities Friday, and it's always fun to be out and about and see our community members in a fun, joyful setting, so I thought that was great. signed up, I mean, I know I'm not newly elected, but I took part in the part one of the, MML's newly elected officials training. I have part two this Thursday. They discussed FOIA and budget and finances. In some ways, I think even though I've been doing this for a while, it was helpful that I had some point of reference, what they were talking about, but this was the first time I remember hearing of any type of formal training, so I think it's very
Yeah, I
beneficial.
don't recall it prior to this.
Yeah, so if anybody can do the January, I don't know if it's too late to sign up, but I do think that it's been very helpful. So. I'll let you know after I listen to part two.
Well, part one was good.
Yes,
I mean,
yes,
that's what I got,
yes.
so,
Yep.
and I don't
And
doubt
it, and it reinforced, I think, the things that we have as far as our budget and our general fund, and they talked about the balance of having too much general fund or not enough general, you know, and I think that I was comforted again by the fact that I feel like our goals and plans and how we make decisions seem to be in line with what they suggest. One thing I am kind of concerned about, Nick used to, he'd get on tangents about things, and I would find it very entertaining, but he would always say, you can't be opening up any city emails on any other computer than your city computer, which I have misplaced somewhere. But it's all FOIAble. Well, they made the distinction, it has nothing to do with the device that you're on, it's the email address you use, and they were recommending that everyone have a specific city, or, you know, their governmental entity email address, because Lord forbid anybody at MML that would have to go through my personal 6 million emails. But they said if it is, which mine is, and so I don't know if that's something that is a cost to the city to have us have city-specific emails. I guess I would like to know.
There's a small.
Because I think it may be beneficial, because they said that if there was a situation and our records were foible, the device, they would need to go through anything that was related to that email address, not, it isn't the device, which, I think we used to kind of think it was, but it's the actual email address, so that made me somewhat concerned about how I'm doing my city business and my personal life, such that it is, the intermingling of the two, so it's just a thought, maybe to think about.
We had talked about it on the personnel committee, looking at that and,
Yeah.
check out the cost and stuff.
There's a small cost
Okay.
yearly for each email we get.
Okay.
But that's,
Yeah.
Very good idea.
Yeah, I think it's something to maybe look into. I mean, and I don't know, maybe Tony has some idea if it's retroactive, like, you know, I've got 13 years of
There's
civil
some-
mission stuff coming to my personal email. If I switch it over, is there like a bankruptcy of 7
Well,
year?
coincidentally, I've got a FOIA matter that's gonna be up for hearing in the next couple of days at another township. But, I've run across some cases in the Court of Appeals. If it's personal email and it's not possessed or used by you as a public official,
Mhm.
it's not a public record. But that's the Court of Appeals, and it had to get to the, you know, so I mean, I don't think it's a good idea, frankly, to have any personal stuff on the email. You know, I think you ought to segregate it to the extent that you can. But there is some case law that does differentiate
It'd be
between.
interesting for me, because people email me both my Yahoo account and my work account, and my work account is very confidential with what I do at Child Advocacy, so if they were to come, you know,
Sure.
that would be really I would have to probably get some
You'd be like
attorneys involved,
Watergate, you'd have them all
because-
redacted.
Well, just because of the kids' names and.
Right,
you know,
no,
I mean,
in all seriousness,
And there's some
Yeah.
privacy
Yeah,
protection built into FOIA too,
Yeah.
as far as that goes.
that would be very.
But
My
it's
own
still-
personal mess,
And-
it's shame.
That's one of the challenges of FOIA is everything that does need to be redacted and reviewed before it goes out. It's-
Right.
Now, the Yahoo account, they would just say, man, she has an online shopping issue. Work one would be a problem. Yeah, the work one would be.
But so anyway, I found it very informative and helpful.
That's interesting, thank you.
If I can step in before I forget, you mentioned the MML classes, which are good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they're taking any of your online sessions, but I have been to a number of the legislative sessions and things out in Lansing and whatnot, and their programming there is also very good. So when those things come up, anybody that's on the commission, I would urge you, you know, if you can fit it in your schedule, to go down to that Lansing annual meeting. The breakout sessions and the speakers are quite good as well, so.
Yes.
Very informative for that stuff.
And I think
Yeah,
they're an
yeah.
excellent resource. I mean, I don't know that we, I mean, and perhaps gratefully, we don't have to utilize them a lot of times, but I mean, they are a wealth of educated and informed people and knowledge that
Yeah,
can help in many situations.
and not just the staff, but also to make connections.
Yes.
with Others in the communities that you'll meet during those sessions is sometimes more valuable. I mean, nothing against the
Sure,
staff, but
right.
sometimes it's like any meeting, sometimes 10 minutes after the meeting, you get more done than you can with a 2-hour meeting you just sat through, so. So thank you for that reminder. Appreciate it. Drew?
Sure, well, yeah, I am signed up to attend those meetings in January, so
Good.
I'm glad to hear that was useful.
Yes.
Yeah, I also attended the Come Home to Alma. That's one of my favorite nights of the year, every year in the city, and this year was no different, so that was very nice. And want to say thank you to Charles at Brave Hearts for the tree giveaway. Again, I think that's such a cool thing that he does for the community each year. I think he doubled the number of trees this year, and really appreciate that, the people who may not have had a tree, have a tree.
Thank you. Michelle?
Again, well, come on down, was a success. I wish everybody Merry Christmas. We do have to remember that this is a very difficult time for a lot of people. The next 2 weeks are not joyful for a lot. It's a rough week, so we just wanna make sure that we're reaching out to people and making sure we're letting them know that they're not alone and there's hope. Because it is a very sad time for some people. So we're there and there is hope available.
And it's good that I'm following Michelle, because I'll add to that, it's also a time for families that are struggling with kids and without kids. Food insecurities are probably at an all-time high right now. People are hungry, don't have enough money for gifts. So if you are able to do any kind of Christmas outreach, there's so many programs in our community that could still use help right up to the final hour. I know Toys for Tots is still looking for volunteers for distribution. We just held our annual Shop with a Hero last Saturday at Walmart and Meyer. It was an awesome time to be back in person. First time since 2019, and it was so exciting. We even had a surprise appearance by Buddy the Elf. You guys have seen Buddy around, I'm sure. He was on the parade the other night. So it was really exciting, and just to see the kids' faces back in person like that was really exciting, and a lot of very grateful parents. And so just reach out if you can, if you're able to give a little bit to one of the organizations to help a family, whether it's with food, gas, we talked about gas, gifts, really does mean a lot. And I will tell you that just from our standpoint, donations are really down this year. And I understand, because it is a hard time for all families across the board, but we are not seeing the outreach that we are used to seeing. And I think there's that fear of, you know, the economy and the way things are going and gas being so high. And so we get it, but just a reminder, if you're able to help to do that. Yeah, Come Home to Alma was awesome. Kudos to the team that put that together. It was a lot of fun, and I always have a great time at that, and happy holidays to everyone.
Thank you. Sarah? Okay. As expected. Tony?
I'm good too. Thank you very much.
Unexpected. Here.
No, just come home to Alamo. Everything went very well. There was no hiccups. The weather was decent. No
Good
rain this
tree,
year. So thanks to all the volunteers and all the folks who came out and put things in the parade, businesses that were open and offered, you know, either free goodies or make and take projects, all kinds of things happening. The next day, we did pretty well with raising some money for some replacement monies for Christmas decorations downtown. We had 220 some folks come to run in our Jingleville run and we probably raised close to $3,300. So with everything with sponsorships and that, and so just thank to everybody that was able to help out and doing your part, even being an open as a business, is doing your part for that evening. So thanks everyone.
Good. Thank you. And Ed, my thanks to everybody, everything. The event was very nice. I agree. It was, the volunteers did a great job. So again, this year, thanks to them for With that, we'll open the meeting to the public. If any members of the public would like to address the commission, please go to the podium, state your name and address, and share your thoughts. I believe we have up to 5 minutes per person. Who would like to be first? Do we need to form like a queue or something? Nobody wants to?
It's all good.
Well, that's.
We just wanted to see what you had to say tonight.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So with that, we're gonna entertain a motion to adjourn then.
So moved.
Support.
Motion support, last chance for comments. All those in favor say yes?
Yes.